All right, today is July 28th, 2022. My name is Rose Hurwitz, and I am interviewing Esther Ritz today. Esther, thank you so much for joining me. Today, I'd like to discuss some of the natural disasters that have impacted the Dallas Jewish community in the past few years, starting with the tornado that hit the community in 2019. Can you explain to me what that night was like?
We were home, and I believe, if I remember, I was watching TV, and a warning came on the bottom of the screen, and I don't know right away but within a few minutes, I think I looked at my iPhone at the weather app I have, and I think. I don't remember if I already had it or I downloaded it. I had an app. The app I used was Channel 5 weather report. So that was live. Anyway, once I started looking at that, I realized it was really serious and it was heading our way. So I went and I told my husband, and we went into one of the closets that we had already in the past, thought about where we would go. And we stayed in the closet and we continued to watch the app, maybe 30 minutes at most, but then it passed by. When we knew it was, we lived near Preston and Forest, actually a little bit north of that and a little bit east on Willow and Willowgate. And the tornado got as close as Inwood and Forest, which is about a mile west, but still very, very close. But once it went north of us, oh, no, wait a minute. Because it went along Royal Lane. Now I can't remember the path, but within 30 minutes, we could see it was not coming to our specific neighborhood. At some point, I called my sister who lives at Royal and Bodecker, and she had been alerted by a friend, and the tornado came within 2 blocks of her house. She lives by herself, and that's why I told you to contact her. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she was in her closet or her bathroom. I think she got in her bathtub. Anyway, she could hear it coming. She was very, very scared. And that was our experience. Once we could see it wasn't, it had passed our neighborhood, we were okay. And we didn't have any damage to our house at all. We lived at that time in a community. It was kind of townhouses that all backed up to a common area and a lake. And I believe the common area lost 2 or 3 big trees, but I don't think it did any damage to any of the houses that I remember. Anyway, they weren't near our house. They were near some of the other houses. And that was it. I have a son who lives about 2 miles south of us, and it came, within a mile of his house, I'd say. But nobody I knew got hurt or had any immediate damage, so we were very lucky. So
good. Yes, that is very lucky.
Yeah,
especially with everyone so close.
Yeah.
Aside from the plan to go into the closet, had you and your husband discussed any other type of disaster preparation before the tornado?
He is the original Boy Scout, and I'm sure we have discussed it, but at that point we hadn't really done any. I think maybe we had extra water in the house. I can't remember. But after that, we bought helmets, and he may have already owned a lantern. I know we had a bunch of candles. We bought the helmets. I think he may have already had a whistle. Anyway, we got some stuff and we put it in a box. We did have a guy come out to talk to us about, in the garage, you can put like a steel closet you can get in that, but we couldn't. I didn't want to do it anyway, but even if we wanted to, we had to be on a slab foundation, and we're not on a slab foundation. So, and I forget how much it was going to be, several $1,000s.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't do that. Yeah, but we, after that, we did begin talking about being more prepared than we were the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you all lose power at all?
Trying to remember. It might have flashed on or off, but I don't think so. I'm going to tell you this, and it's not part of your immediate study, but the following year we had the freeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the two weather crises, I'm going to call them, kind of gets mixed up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Because both times, and we did lose power the second time for sure. So I don't remember if we lost power the first time. I don't think we did.
Did you all have any damage in your home because of the freeze?
Did we have any? Well, plants, that was the main thing. Nothing inside the house. Yeah, I had a lot of plants that were killed.
How long were you guys without power? Do you remember?
During the freeze?
Yes.
2 or 3 days, because we moved over to my son's house.
Okay.
He had damage inside the house because when it started warming up, he had a pipe that broke he's a 2-story house in upstairs bathroom. And my sister also lost power in the freeze, and she also stayed at Mark's house. So we had a whole little community. So when it started warming up, my son and his wife were out doing errands, and it was just me and Elizabeth, my sister, in the house. And we noticed it was kind of dripping in this little den. So we went and we got some towels. Well, pretty soon the dripping was like a waterfall. And we ran around. We got every towel and whatever we could find. And we began pushing the furniture out of the room, and the water was going into the kitchen and into the hall. And of course, I called Mark immediately, and they rushed home, but he had a lot of damage from the pipe. Yeah, that was a mess. It took, and after the freeze, so many people had damage. It took a long time to, get the insurance out there and find workmen and all of that. And it was a, a long process.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how long Mark's rebuilding took after the pipe burst?
At least 6 months, maybe more.
Wow.
At least 6 months. And he ended up doing his own contracting. He couldn't find a contractor, so he had to go hire the plumber and hire the stone guy and hire the sheetrocker and the floor guy and the kitchen cabinets. I don't remember. I know the bottom cabinets had to be refinished, and it was big.
Was the difficulty in finding a contractor because there weren't enough, or because the number of people? Okay.
Because everybody was looking. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know if people were hiring contractors outside of the DFW area, or if it was?
I have no idea. Yeah. I have no idea.
My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know if insurance covered those repairs? Or
yes, he did get insurance for it.
Great. Going back to the tornado, can you describe some of the damage that you saw and what that felt like for you to see it?
Well, first of all, I cannot remember. There were a lot of streets closed off in the beginning. So you couldn't go down North Haven. It hit right next to the Jewish Community Center. There's a big North Haven Gardens, and that was demolished. I don't know if it hit the J or not, but a lot of the houses going in that area were hit. Going up towards Central Expressway, I think there's a street called Park Central where a lot were hit. And then going along Royal, which is where my sister lived, there were, I'd say, at least a half a dozen houses that a couple destroyed and a couple with the roofs gone. And it was very disturbing. And it was shocking. I mean, the amount of damage. And then I think it was later one day I was driving down Inwood Road. I don't know if it's between Walnut and Royal or south of Walnut, but those are huge mansions. That's where Ross Perot used to live.
Mm.
And one of those houses was almost completely destroyed. That was shocking. But there was just damage wherever you went. I mean, it was bad, really, really, really bad. Preston Royal, one quadrant, all the stores gone. It was closed for well over a year. I think the Central Market just recently reopened. So yeah, very extensive damage.
Did you frequent any of the stores that were closed?
Oh, sure. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
What types of businesses had you regularly gone to but couldn't anymore?
Well, the Central Market would be the main one. There's a McDonald's there, and my husband likes to go there for breakfast frequently. I think that closed for a long time. Trying to think there's a restaurant we used to go once in a while called Neighborhood Services. That was gone. There's a dress store, Black and White, I'd go to sometimes. That was gone. Just trying to think what else was there. Feel like I'm missing a few, but yeah. And then on the that was the southeast quadrant. Then on the southwest quadrant, a restaurant we went to all the time was gone, Ruggieri's. And I'm trying to think what else in Preston Royal. The north side, I don't think was affected as much. So yeah, I mean, it was, it really hurt those businesses.
Mm-hmm. Is there another grocery store nearby that was as accessible as the Central Market?
Oh yeah, there's a Tom Thumb across the street. There's a Whole Foods close. There's another Tom Thumb nearby. I mean, we could get groceries, but that particular one was gone.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what the efforts were within the community for rebuilding? Was there a call for volunteers or donations shortly after either the tornado or the freeze in 2021?
Oh gosh, I don't remember a call for volunteers to do work, but I'm sure there were calls for blankets and clothes and that kind of stuff, but I don't have a clear memory of that.
Mm-hmm. Were these the first catastrophic weather events that you had experienced in your lifetime?
Oh, ever?
Mm-hmm.
I think that came that close to me. I'm trying to remember. I mean, if you live in Dallas, are you from Dallas?
I grew up in Houston, but I lived in Dallas about 7 years.
Okay. So, tornadoes aren't that rare. So I can think of 3 or 4 other times when a tornado was either coming but never this close. Mm-hmm. I remember once in high school, the sky turned like green and purple, and we didn't do anything. I looked out the window and you couldn't see it, but there was a tornado that hit maybe a mile away from my high school, but I don't remember being scared or anything, but I do remember the sky turning colors. So yeah, I mean, there've been a few instances, but nothing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's ever happened. Hurricane. Nope. Sorry, that's it.
Did these 2 experiences with the tornado of 2019 and the freeze change any of your attitudes or behaviors toward natural disasters that could potentially affect you or people in the future?
Well, yeah, like I said, we got a lot of water. We put together a box with helmets and heavy blankets and a whistle. And I don't know if Bob ever bought the radio he wanted. He might have. He wanted to get like a shortwave radio or something. He got a lot of stuff. Yes, we put together an emergency type thing.
And how would you say your relationship is with your neighbors? Do you know them pretty well? Are you guys?
Well, at the time of the tornado, we've just moved 2 months ago. So, okay. But at the time of the tornado, we had we lived in this community around the lake that I'm telling you about, 27 houses, and we knew most of the people, and we had very good relationships. The two people on immediate each side of us, we were friendly with them, but I would say there were other people within the community who we were closer to, we might go have dinner with or something like that. But the two immediate neighbors were just, to say hello to and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And in your new neighborhood, I know it's very fresh, but have you started making acquaintances with people? Or
yeah, well, we've been here exactly a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We've just moved to a senior living community. So people are extremely friendly.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say beyond saying hello, how are you, and where do you live? And, we haven't done anything further. I'm just, first of all, like digging out. You can see my room. It's pretty organized, but, a week ago, we were still hanging pictures and, doing all that kind of stuff.
It looks very well decorated. I'm so surprised you've only been there a month.
Oh, thank you. I've been working hard.
So speaking of decorations, in your previous oral history that you took part in last April, you had mentioned how the pandemic inspired some of your art that you create. Right. Did any of the tornado or the freeze inspire your art, or
let's see,
affect your work?
What's the timeline here? When the
tornado was 2019 and freeze was February of 21.
And when did we have to start isolating? After the freeze, correct?
Before. Pandemic was roughly March 2020.
And the freeze was February 2020?
21.
So
it had already been almost a year.
We were already isolated.
So Dallas took quite a few hits with some dramatic events in a short time. My first immediate answer is no. I don't remember feeling, certainly the tornado didn't. I might have done a couple of paintings, but I don't remember it being a big impact like the pandemic was a huge impact. Mm-hmm. And the freeze, actually the freeze, we didn't have any damage. Well, outside the landscape, there was a lot. But so we spent 3 days and 3 nights at my son's house with them and my sister, and we kind of had fun until, the big leak happened. Mm-hmm. He had a large house and we were comfortable and we played games, and it was okay, once we knew we were safe. Mm-hmm. But in terms of your question about my art, I wouldn't say either of these weather events really affected my art, whereas the pandemic, I did. I mean, I felt like the pandemic, before we had the vaccine was, well, first of all, I, at the time was, I don't know, I'm now 79. So 3 years ago, I was 76, whatever. I'm in my late 70s and my husband's a few years older. And so the pandemic, I felt, was really a life and death situation. Mm-hmm. I never thought that about the tornado or the freeze. At least I never felt we were in any, immediate danger. Whereas the pandemic, and it lasted so long, and, when there was so much we didn't know for so long. And so, yeah, it was a big impact. Mm-hmm. Do you and your sister and your son regularly get together? You said you guys had fun, like playing games. That's something y'all would have been outside of?
Yeah, not that group per se. I see my sister a lot and I see my son a lot and his wife and his kids, but that constellation wouldn't, I mean, if there's a family event or something, but normally we wouldn't do something like that. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember who cooked the meals? Or did you guys order out during the freeze?
Oh, gosh, no, I don't remember. We probably all helped here and there. I mean, we were there a long time. And mm-hmm. I remember Mark and Melissa, his wife, going to the grocery store and coming back and talking about how the shelves were all picked over and there wasn't a lot. And, we were fine. We had plenty.
Mm-hmm. Was the scarcity in the grocery store something that happened after power was lost, or was that something that happened before when there were warnings?
I don't know, because I didn't go to the store, so I don't know what it's like before, and I don't like to go to the grocery store, so I'm not a good one to ask about that. I don't remember how much preparation we had for that freeze. If they told us days before or the day before, I can't remember what the how fast it happened.
Mm-hmm. I think you've answered all of the questions that I have. Are there any other thoughts that you have that you want to share about any of the topics we've discussed?
The only thing I'd say is, we've moved into the senior living community. And of course, one of the questions we asked them when we were looking is how did they handle both the freeze and the tornado? Because they're not that far also from where the tornado went. And whether or not they lost power and do they have generators. And we did, question them at length.
Mm-hmm.
They do have plans. I think the halls may have generators, but anybody who lost power or whatever problem might have happened to their apartment, they were able to move into other apartments, or they put them into temporary housing, which they paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So they are prepared. I mean, that was the bottom line to that. But we probably would not have asked all those questions if, we hadn't been through all this other stuff.
Is the temporary housing option offsite, or is it part of the same community?
I think they use both. That was my understanding. I think they had some empty apartments, but if they didn't have enough of those, then I think they also used temporary.
Okay.
So I will tell you something else. This isn't a disaster kind of thing, but we lived in a high rise for about 10 years. Let's see, we moved in there in 03 to 13, let's say. And there were a couple of times where that building had leaks and had nothing to do with the weather. One time we were on the 6th floor, and a workman on the 7th floor broke a pipe or pulled a fire extinguisher by mistake. I don't know. Anyway, the 6th floor, water went all the way down.
Wow.
We had to have our floors refinished, but we didn't have any furniture or clothing damage. But there were other people who had to move out for months. So, it's just, when you live anyway. So that's one example of a big nuisance. And then one time we were out of town and I came home because we traveled a lot, and I walked into my bathroom and the ceiling over my bathtub had collapsed.
Oh, no.
Well, it turned out, now this was a very nice high rise, and the floor above us was considered a penthouse. Okay. So my ceiling had collapsed. Now, first of all, I don't know why we didn't, and maybe after that we asked the front desk to be sure to check the apartment weekly when we were gone or something, but we hadn't done that. Mm-hmm. So it turned out the apartment above us, this guy had a leak in his kitchen sink, which he knew about, and instead of getting it fixed, he kept a bucket under there.
Oh no.
And he, for some reason, he let it overflow. And I mean, it was lucky it was over a bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
So another little disaster. So that's nothing to do with
they can definitely be localized too.
Nothing
hardships of.
But I'm still thinking if there's other things that have ever happened. I mean, it seems like there's lots of times hurricanes have come around to wherever I was, but I don't ever remember having to hide or do anything like that. So, or I don't ever remember any damage to any house I ever lived in. So that's all I got. I'm sorry.
This has been perfect. So the senior living community you're in now, is that more of like an apartment style where all the homes are connected, or are they like townhomes or single family homes?
It's called, the name of it is Presbyterian Village North.
Okay.
And it is a large campus. It's 40 acres.
Oh, wow.
And they have a combination of single family homes they call executive homes, patio homes, of which they have, I don't know, several dozen, I would guess, which are attached.
Mhm.
They're like small townhomes. And they have independent living. They have assisted living and nursing and rehab. And the assisted living, memory, rehab, those are separate buildings.
Mm.
Building we moved into is a brand new independent apartment building with about 112 apartments. It's brand new. We were among the first residents, but they have 3 or 4 other independent apartment buildings that I know about. They have I know of 3, so I think it's 3 or 4 others. I think they have somewhere between 300 and 400 people living in independent living.
Oh, wow.
Which includes the houses and the patio homes. So anybody who's living in what they call independent uses the dining room and the gym and the library and all that kind of stuff. But the assisted living and memory, they have their own, facilities for everything. So it's quite large.
Okay.
They have their own police force, their own security. It's very nice. We're happy.
Mhm. Good. That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
And I guess my final question would be, did you notice anything unique about the Jewish community or the efforts in recovery, like by Jewish community centers in the weather events or the pandemic?
I personally did not, and I didn't hear of any, but I wasn't paying that much of attention, to tell you the truth. So not really.
Great. Anything else come to mind before we wrap up?
That's it. That's all I can think of. So very nice to talk to you, and